My name's Steve. I am co-director of St. Wants You.
My name's Sean, and I'm the other co-director. Big surprise.
How did it feel when you guys got accepted into South by for your premiere? Was it exciting, or did you have a feeling this was coming?
No, we had no idea. This is like the first time we've gotten into a big festival like this. And
like
so
a dream come true for filmmakers, right? This is like one of those summits of your filmmaking career. Like, it's like, oh my God, we did it.
Yeah. Now the next mountain's in sight.
Was it an email or a phone call? How did you find out?
Yeah, South by does emails. And so we had we were watching. It's really funny because on Reddit there's this filmmaker thread where people are talking about what festivals are getting into, where they're getting rejected. And we were watching it from afar. And we were seeing that it was kind of happening, and we didn't know if we were gonna get in, and then it happened, and we were like, oh my God.
For people that maybe don't know, what is the book Michelle Remembers?
Well, I mean, Michelle Remembers is a well-known book for a lot of bad reasons. Let me tell you. It was like a huge bestseller in 1980. And basically, it's about this young woman named Michelle Smith and her psychiatrist, Dr. Lawrence Pasder, who also goes by Larry. They embarked on 2 years of intensive therapy, like everyday therapy in the 1970s, where they would record these sessions. And from the very beginning, Michelle would just, sink into a sort of dark trance, and then these memories started coming, and not just like any memories. These were like, it's basically like a horror book, right? So it's like her parents are members of a satanic cult. They give her away to the cult. They are murdering people. They are killing animals and sacrificing them. They are killing babies.
Lots of babies,
like piles and piles of babies in the book, right? It's not just one or two.
And that's a book.
All right. So how did you guys first encounter this piece of work, and why did you choose to make a documentary about it?
For me, I mean, I am from the same city as Michelle Smith and Larry Pasder. So I grew up in Victoria, and it was everywhere. And a weird thing for me is that my Auntie Cindy actually trained under Larry when she was doing her nursing degree.
Wow, that's wild. Also Canadian here as well, so it's a bizarre part of our culture.
It really is, right?
Yeah.
And this for me too. I mean, it's one thing when it's like, okay, I know the story, and like when we started looking into the film, it's like, okay, I know that it's connected to the bigger satanic panic, and I hear people say this all the time, but it wasn't until we made this and it's like suddenly realized that it's like, hey, this little small story from the small city in Canada affected millions and millions and millions of people around the world.
Michelle is quite a focus in the film, and I'm wondering, do you think she believes her own accounts, or do you think it's more complicated than that?
I think it's more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, for us making this film, villains and victims, right? I mean, this will be up to the audience to decide. I don't think there's a villain or a victim in this.
Totally. I always wonder, and it's curious that you asked that question. I wonder, when you've told yourself a story for so long, do you believe it? Does it become part of who you are? And we will never know, I think, Michelle's side of it, but that's something that I've asked myself frequently.
Yeah, the romance element here is really disturbing, but also kind of, I don't know, difficult not to empathize with. How did you feel about approaching that sensitive material?
I mean, for us, like this, a lot of this film had to, and this is not the sexy response to the romance, but this had to do a lot of research, right? So for us, it was like, see the people who ended up on camera as participants in this film. And I think we spoke to over like 40 or 45 phone interviews. And this was for us, it's like, so you're going to go through this and really explore Michelle and Larry and their role in the satanic panic. And then it's like, hey, rely on the family members, rely on the experts who spent decades investigating these two people, their publisher, their publicists, the ghostwriters, these people who didn't make it into the film. Like they touched a lot of people. And it was just trying to find that balance between, this is what people are saying, this is their own words, Michelle and Larry's own words in archive, TV, radio, print, and then present that to the audience and let them decide.
I first encountered Michelle Remembers through the podcast You're Wrong About with Sarah Marshall, and it was pretty amazing to see her appear in this film. How did you guys get involved working with her, and what was she like to work with?
Sarah Marshall is amazing.
Yeah.
She's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Just she actually like was intimidating to me because she's just so smart, and listening to her talk is like an absolute joy. But we had first, like, I mean, we started researching this in 2018. She released the 5-part podcast in 2020. So of course we listened to it, and we just realized like she was so invested in the story, and she was our like she was like our encyclopedia. She was the one that had studied the book, and we knew that we needed to bring her into the film to help explain to the audience what this was.
I mean, she told us too, she's like, I've read Michelle Remembers 13 times. We're like, well, we've never met anyone else who's read it 13 times, so we have to talk to you.
Yeah, I think she's the first interview, and I was very excited to see her in this project. Through your research and through making this film, did you learn a lot about the concept of repressed memories, and did you form opinions on what that means?
Yeah, I mean, one of the experts that appear in our film is Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, who is a memory researcher, and she has, I mean, a huge long career where she's been talking about how memory works and why do you have false memories. And this, I mean, one of the interesting ways that she described memory was that it's like a Wikipedia page. So you know, you have your memories, but they can go in and be changed by other people, whether it's by something that somebody tells you, by a photograph, by something you read in a newspaper. And that's sort of, I mean, that is one of the kernels of the Michelle Remembers story, right? Is that she is having memories that her doctor took as evidence of real life crimes that were happening. And then this whole problem explodes to the police, to the FBI, to the church, to social workers, to therapists, and it just, you know, goes from there. Memory.
What is your relationship with religion personally? Do you have a spirituality or not really?
No, I don't have a relationship with religion.
My family was Catholic and left the church when I was really young. So I was 5, but for me, this was a really interesting story, knowing my parents' experience with Catholicism. I can't even say that word. That's how long it's been with the Catholic Church, and seeing that the local priests that Michelle and Larry consulted about these satanic memories believed them. And then it escalated from the priests to the bishop, and they went all the way to the Vatican in Rome to talk to the Pope about this, and he endorsed their book.
It certainly didn't. It didn't make me want to get involved in religion.
Yeah, I would say me either. I think one of the heavier touchstones in this film is when you discuss how society sort of is now in a more recent version of satanic panic with things like QAnon or Pizzagate and the spiral of misinformation from the right. Why do you think this sort of cycle persists over time? And do you think we can find a way out of it?
Well, like this happened in the 80s. It happened before the 80s. It is something that has happened over and over and over again throughout history. I think Satan is the easiest scapegoat when people don't have they can't explain things in their lives. Satan's the easiest one to explain why their lives are a little bit not going the way they hoped. I don't know, and I'm not sure that there's anything to change. One of the bigger point, or like when Debbie Nathan says in the film that she thought that like just debunking this stuff would like get the information out there and then it would be solved, and then realizing that it doesn't, and it doesn't change. It was kind of just one of those moments that really made me like think about this and realize that it is a problem that's probably going to stick with us for a while.
Though on the flip side, I mean, that's one point of view in the film, and we also have the Wiccan police detective Charles Ennis, who worked for the Vancouver Police Department, and his takeaway is that we all have to stand up and say something when people are spreading misinformation. It is our collective responsibility to keep saying, no, this is not true, over and over again, to fight it, right? And he did that. And that's my takeaway, is that there is something to do, and it's all our responsibility to be like, no.
I think that's a great note to leave on. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, and congrats on the film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Of course.